Hey macro students, here again for another modified FRQ question. This one is question number 5. So, question starts out discussing the credit card fees which have dropped, causing people to use credit cards more often for transactions and thus demand less money. So they ask, explain how the nominal interest rate will be affected by this decrease in the demand for money. So that, of course, would be a reference to the money market graph. So once again, even though we're not required to draw a money market graph, it would, of course, be helpful here to draw such a graph so that we can help to determine the answer here. So if you were to draw a money market graph, recall that the money supply curve is a vertical line. The nominal interest rate is the vertical axis, the so-called price of money. The horizontal axis would be the quantity of money, and then the money demand curve, like all demand curves, is a downward sloping line. So if you had a decrease in the money demand curve, that would be a leftward shift of the money demand curve, and the new equilibrium interest rate would be lower than the original. So again, your direct answer here would be that you would have a decrease in the nominal interest rate due to a decrease in the demand for money. The next part of the question says, given the interest rate change, the lower nominal interest rate from part A, what will happen to bond prices in the short run? So the simple way to remember this is that bond prices and interest rates are inversely related. So in this instance, if you had a decrease in the nominal interest rate, that would mean an increase in bond prices. So again, bond prices and interest rates are inversely related. So if interest rates are falling, bonds essentially become a more attractive investment opportunity. And so you'd see an increase in bond prices with a decrease in the nominal interest rate. Next part of the question, part C, says, given the interest rate change, again the lower interest rate from part A, what will happen to the price level in the short run, and explain. So again, although a graph isn't required here, it would also be helpful in answering this question. In this instance, it would be an ADAS graph, with the price level being your vertical axis and real GDP being your horizontal axis. So with lower interest rates, of course, you would have an increase not just in investment spending, but also in consumption, consumer spending, both of which would cause an increase in aggregate demand. So if you increase aggregate demand, or you shift the aggregate demand curve to the right, you'll see that the new equilibrium price level is higher than the original equilibrium price level. So again, you would have an increase in the equilibrium price level resulting from the lower interest rates from part A. Finally, part D, it says, identify an open market operation the Federal Reserve could use to keep interest rate constant at the level that existed before the drop in credit card fees. So since the drop in credit card fees led to a lower interest rate, the Fed is seeking here to raise interest rates. And in order to raise interest rates, the Fed would have to engage in an open market, a sale of bonds. So the Fed would want to sell bonds in order to increase interest rates. So that would be the answer to part D. The Fed could sell bonds to increase interest rates. And that's it for question number 5. We'll return with the next question shortly.